Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. We've got a lot to discuss. You know, Michael Cohen, an indicator that I saw this morning, in addition to the news yesterday that the economy is contracting and shrinking, GDP for the first quarter, negative 0.3%. But sometimes there's other data that just tells you a narrative and stands out. And it's that McDonald's and their profits and their sales are dramatically decreasing. And they're citing the fact
absolutely not true. It's not true. I went to McDonald's just the other day. And I bought like a lot.
And if you're listening to, though, what a lot of these, retailers are saying, if you listen to the SOS warnings from your Targets and your Walmarts and your Home Depots, they're telling us what is right around the corner, and to me at this moment, the market and the volatility right now looks more like a Trump meme coin or a Trump stock than actually being tethered to the reality of the situation. And I just believe that that's very, very problematic. I want to get into that more, on the show, because again, freight volumes decreasing dramatically, trucking volumes decreasing dramatically. Donald Trump, when he's been either interviewed or when he's in the Oval Office, he's saying things like, why do we care about products coming in from China? Like, does your kid need $30? Just give them $2. And if they've got to pay more money.
Did your parents ever give you 30 gifts for a holiday? I mean, you got 2. It was a lot. But now he's even acknowledging that you won't be able to afford the 2. Ben, under normal circumstances, as you know, I try to make as much light out of all of this as I possibly can, because it's that sad what we're experiencing. But right now I'm at Yale University, where I'm speaking over the course of 3 days in front of the business management school. And I feel much smarter being here in the professor's office. And so I want to act as if I am from Yale, and I want to be serious today. I know a lot of people are going to be upset about that, right? But I'm going to, from now moving forward, I really want to look at this because we're really in a very dangerous situation right now, not just as a country, but the way that the world is responding to us. Yeah. And I think that's one of the topics that is extremely, extremely important and should be important to every single one of our followers.
And there's this incongruity between how corporate news is dealing with it here in the United States, still covering it from a vantage point of American exceptionalism and America leading the world, when, to use the freight and trucking examples, that ship has sailed, Michael Cohen, because the rest of the world fundamentally looks at the United States very differently right now. And when they see Donald Trump's behavior, they're seeing it through an actual accurate lens of weakness. They're seeing his cognitive issues, and they're free to talk about it. So they're all like, do you all see this? And the United States is looking at it, by and large, through like fascist beer goggles of Donald Trump. And they're seeing things a lot differently, than what the real story is. And I think that's problematic because, we're not just in for a massive hangover, as a country, or just even a small headache, but we're in for some chronic pain that's going to be coming based on what Trump and this MAGA regime is force feeding this country. And let me just show you.
Before we jump to the clip, I just want to also bring to our brigaders' attention, if you were watching that cabinet meeting yesterday, and again, I'm trying to be very erudite because I'm sitting here in Yale. If you were watching that cabinet meeting yesterday, that fawning over the promotion of narcissism for Trump's ego, and totally 100% about stroking his ego, you understand that these enablers are completely unqualified for the job that they are entrusted to do for us. Each and every one of them basically honoring him as if he was Caesar returning to Rome after victory. And I'm trying to figure out, which is what you were talking about, Ben, what is that victory? Fighting with China in a war that we cannot win? Fighting with Vietnam, where it makes no sense? Fighting with the herd and the McDonald Islands with a bunch of penguins? What are we doing?
And then you just take a look at, even go before that, to Donald Trump's interview with ABC with that guy, Terry Moran, that was done in the Oval Office, right? And like when Donald Trump was saying that Abrego Garcia actually had the letters MS and the numbers 13 on his knuckles when it was so obviously photoshopped. I mean, there were tattoos on Abrego Garcia's knuckles that people in kind of right-wing circles said, oh, that must mean MS13, to which Terry Moran, the interviewer, said, I'm not an expert on that. I don't know that, but I know it doesn't actually have the letters MS and the numbers 13 on it. And then if you look at Trump's, just the way his body's position,
his demeanor,
and he's like, it says it. It says it. And then, you know, Terry Moran's like, all right, let's move on to talk about, why are you saying it says it? I mean, if you have people in your
life, honest. Why can't you be honest? This is why
just say it is. Just say it is.
That's why nobody trusts the media. Nobody trusts the news. It's all fake news. Just accept it and acknowledge it. I want you, Terry, to acknowledge it. He says, sir, I can't do that because I know that it is Photoshopped, very much like there's a picture of Donald Trump on the golf course with his shirt pulled up, slightly exposing, you know, by his butt crack, and it says MS13 on it, right? I mean, it's really kind of, it's kind of funny. Would that, of course, be enough to turn around and to have Trump?
Well, look, have you seen? You've seen Caroline Leavitt's new tattoos, right? Cohen,
yeah, I did.
Have you seen that? Because in the most recent press, Jeremy, do we have the photo of Leavitt with the tattoos in the face? We don't have that, you know. But pull it up in a little bit.
And if by chance you find the one with Trump with the tattoo or the tramp stamp on his ass, put that one up too.
Play the clip, though, where Donald Trump says that the letters MS13 are actually, and the numbers 13 are there. Let's play that first, Remy.
He wasn't a member of a gang. And then they look, and on his knuckles, he had MS13.
There's a dispute.
Well, wait a minute. He had MS13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS13.
It says MS13.
That was Photoshopped. So let me
That was Photoshopped. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. I picked you, Terry. But you're not being very nice. He had MS13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture. We'll
and you think it was Photoshopped? Well,
here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine, sir.
Terry,
I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's fake news.
When he was photographed in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't there, but they're there now, right?
No,
but they're there
in
now.
your picture.
Terry.
Ukraine, sir.
He's got MS13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
Well, we'll take a look at that.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at that, sir.
Why don't you just say, yes, he does, and, go on to something else?
It's contested.
Contested. You have the photos of, let me show you what the knuckles look like, though, just so everybody can actually see what his knuckles look like. And Remy, if we have the photos of the knuckles.
Yeah, there's a marijuana.
There's a marijuana, there's a smiley face, there's a cross, and there's a skull. And then over it, it has the letters MS and then the numbers 13 on it, because this is the Photoshop of it that was handed to Donald Trump. The fact that if you can't decipher that that's not real, and you are the leader of the United States and you're leading us into this reckless trade war, I mean, that's really fundamentally, problematic.
Hey, Ben, can I ask
you? It would be like me saying this to you, Cohen. Look at Caroline Leavitt. It would be like me saying this. Like, look, Cohen, someone sent me this photo right here of Caroline Levitt, and that's real. I mean, I guess she goes to El Salvador on that basis. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. Now, I could understand with the far right wing saying M for marijuana plant, all right, S for the smiley face. The cross, I'm not really sure how that becomes a 1, but, okay. But the one with the 3, how is a skull in any? I racked my brain trying to think, how is a skull the number 3? I'm confused.
But here's my point though too. Even to me, even if he was at one point in his life MS13, remember he moved to the United States when he was 16 years old. He lived in El Salvador during very hard times. I could see how somebody who lived 13, 14, 15 could get recruited into a gang. I mean, we see how people in the United States get recruited into the gangs who live in tough areas, and I can see that. It doesn't change the fundamental process that the guy was living here since he was 16 years old. He's married to an American woman. They have 3 American kids. The guy works in a union now. There was a withholding. There was a withholding order in 2019 by the first Trump administration. You can't send him to El Salvador. If you want to deport him to someplace else, you can deport him to someplace else, just not El Salvador, because he could get killed here. That was what the ruling was. And if you want to move him, you just give him a modicum of due process. You have to give some process before you say, hey, here's what it's going to be. And then we can have these arguments, Cole. We could say, was he a gang member? Should he be here? Should he not be here? But you give somebody process, and it's the burden of the government. You just put forward the evidence. That's it.
But Ben, they also made this false assertion about him that he wasn't just MS-13. He was also the leader of the MS-13 gang in New York. Problem for that as well is he's actually never been to New York, which again, it just goes to show you they don't want due process. What they want is the cruelty. They want the visual of these Venezuelans taken and basically like slabs of meat and turned over to the El Salvadorian correctional facility, these officers, in a violent and in a horrific way, because somebody told Trump that if you do it in a violent, ugly way, that will be a deterrent from other people coming to the country for fear that will be them.
Except the issue with that is also what you've now done is basically shut down tourism into the United States.
Not according to Trump, though, brother. He turns around and he will tell you that that tourism right now is doing great. By the way, if you listen to him during that Terry Moran interview with ABC, we're doing great in every metric. Our economy is rolling now. All right. Food prices, gasoline prices, all prices are going down. We're winning in the trade wars. 200 countries, even though there's not 200 countries in the world, have already come to him and making deals. It seems to me that we're doing great. So it's no wonder at that roundtable of stupidity the other day, they were all talking about how this is the greatest first 100 days of any president ever.
Yeah, and that's where, like when it comes to the data on tourism, just think about if you're the business community now, or if you're in the tourism industry or whatever, you see what the actual data is. We know there's a ton of objective information out there that tourism is getting absolutely crushed right now in the United States. We know people from Canada are not traveling here, and we get why. They went elbows up and they're like, your leader, Donald Trump, right now is talking about taking us over, conquering us. We don't want to go to your country. People in Europe are saying, why would we want to go there? We've heard the stories of the German backpackers who were put in detention centers, cavity search, strip search, treated like criminals and deported. We've heard the stories of people traveling to the United States who have been treated like criminals for traveling. They get interrogated by customs when they get into the United. Why would we travel there? People from Australia and the rest of the world just saying, why would we want to come here to the United States? So we've also cut off tourism. We've cut off critical labor because migrants are actually, a lot of them pay taxes and they actually help the economy and their seasonal needs as well. And they've been helpful. So we've actually harmed farmers who are also getting harmed in addition because of the retaliation on the tariffs. It's just been an overall destruction of the economy. And the imagery I talk about a lot, Cohen, too, about where we are now, I give the imagery of the tsunami, of the shores receding. And what I see Wall Street doing now is picking up the fish, basically, that are there to feed themselves, because Wall Street knows what they're doing versus how this is impacting Main Street. And when you see the fact that ships aren't coming to the ports, okay, and Donald Trump says it's not a big deal, it will all go away. That's what he said during COVID, like a miracle, it's all going to go away. And when he lies about the data and says that, oh, well, gas prices right now are down 198, that's just false. Egg prices are down 87 to 93%. That's false. That's incorrect. Everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. And there are just little things too from that interview with ABC that I think deserve more attention. Like when Donald Trump was trying to show off, he has a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the Oval Office, which he like pretends is a real Declaration of Independence, which it's not. And he puts like the drapes over it to act like he's shielding it from the light. It's not the actual Declaration of Independence. So he does this shtick where he brings the reporters in to show off a fake Declaration of Independence. And then Terry Moran asked him, what does the Declaration of Independence mean to you? Why do you think it's such an important document, right?
Well, you have it sitting over the back of the Resolute desk, so you should be asking that question. Terry Moran had an amazing interview.
Great.
And the questions that he asked were poignant. They were direct. Trump didn't like them because it didn't ascribe to the lies that he is promoting on a daily basis. And so what does he do? He goes into full attack mode. Like what he's doing to Midas Touch Network.
Yeah, no, here's what Donald Trump said in response to the question, why do you like the Declaration of Independence? Here, play this clip.
And of course, you have the Declaration of Independence.
What does it mean to you?
Well, it means exactly what it says. It's a declaration. It's a declaration of unity and love and respect, and it means a lot. And it's something very special to our country.
Lincoln's portrait up there. I'm not.
Do you see Terry Moran's face with Donald Trump?
I mean, I would
a
ask.
Declaration of unity and support. It's literally the opposite. It's a Declaration of Independence.
I mean, it's hanging over your desk. I'm sure you've read at least. Close the drapes and say, what's the first sentence of the Declaration of Independence? And see whether or not he could have asked it. I'll tell you something. Had he done that, Trump would have tossed his ass right out of the Oval Office, right? Because he can't. It's a What does the Declaration of Independence mean to you, Ben? Well, it means it's a declaration. It's a declaration. You know, that's the answer that a kid who didn't do his studying for a pop quiz the following day would answer. It's a declaration that our country ascribes to.
He goes it's literally the opposite of unity. The Declaration is of saying no to the monarchy. It is saying we are done with you. So I mean, but yes, it's of independence and respect. And then in the interview as well with Terry Moran, he's asked about the 145% tariffs on China and elsewhere, and Terry Moran's just like, Donald, I'm just doing mathematics here. And Trump's like, you don't know how to add. Your math is wrong. Here, watch this clip.
Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're trying to say something's going to happen, Terry.
No. Okay, well,
nothing's going to happen.
You know business.
Terry,
I want to ask you.
I do know business.
Yes. So 145% tariffs on China, and that's good. Basically an embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on everything from electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it.
That's mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs, but at 145, they basically can't do much business with the United States. And They were making from us $1 trillion a year. They were ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off. And by the way, we have other countries that were just as bad. If you look at the European Union, it was terrible what they've done to us. Every country, almost every country in the world was ripping us off. They're not doing that anymore.
I want you to think.
What are you talking about?
I don't
America
know.
was leading the world. Donald Trump doesn't understand what trade deficits even are.
You know what they have to do, Ben? They have to talk to Trump, and it's the problem is not Trump. He's had this bullshit idea in his head about tariffs his entire life, right? I mean, since he was a young man. What they need to do is they need to sort of spell it out in a Saturday Night Live skit for him, like the way they used to make fun of Sean Spicer, bringing out the dolls and so on. All right. You buy a shirt from China. That shirt, let's say it's a MAGA shirt, is $10. You pay the $10 and you get the shirt. Somebody needs to explain to him that if you are charged $10 for a shirt and you pay $10 and you get the shirt, how are you being ripped off? Where is the rip-off being made? How about the people who stock the shirt? How about the people who end up distributing the shirt? How about the people who transport the shirt? I mean, there are various different methods that go into modalities that go into the movement of goods where people make money from it, transportation companies or whatever, distribution centers, and they pay taxes on that money. So I'm just trying to understand where this inaccurate ideology comes from and why nobody in his inner circle has explained to him in like third grade level the concept of economics.
They were all too busy there saying how great he is, how great he's doing. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent at the cabinet meeting, this has been the greatest 100 days we've ever had. Susan Wiles is chief. This is the greatest. We've never had more greatness in America in the history than we've had here. I mean, Pam Bondi, we've done more. I mean, it's just, it's embarrassing. Again, North Korea would be like, whoa, that's even over the top right there of what you're doing. And as an American watching it, it really is. I mean, it's humiliating. This isn't governance. I don't know what the hell this even is. I mean, it's
performative art.
And as I've said, it's the lost season, the worst season of The Apprentice meets Kim Jong-un. That's what these cabinet meetings are. And in fact, I think the cast of The Apprentice would do a far better job than this crew of misfits, MAGA misfits that are there right now. We're going to take our first quick break of the show. And we come back, we still got a lot more to discuss. A reminder, make sure everybody subscribes to Michael Cohen's podcast, the Mea Culpa podcast, wherever podcasts are available, and subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. Check that out. Let's take our first quick break of today's show.
Okay, let's be honest. I've lived a few lifetimes in one: prison, politics, Trump. So trust me, my stress levels have stress levels. And yeah, I've started feeling it. Sleep, trash. Energy, hit or miss. My joints, well, let's just say they crack more than a MAGA conspiracy theory. Now, I'm not trying to live forever, but I am trying to make the time that I've got count. That's why I'm excited to share something that actually works. Fatty 15. Yeah, sounds funny, but it's serious science. I mean, I'm so excited to share with you guys C15 from Fatty 15, the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. I mean, it is an incredible scientific breakthrough to support our long-term health and wellness. And you guessed it, aging and longevity. Well, it turns out this stuff was discovered by Dr. Stephanie Van Watson while working with the United States Navy and aging dolphins. I mean, if it works for Flipper, I'm listening. Now, based on over 100 studies, we now know that C15 strengthens our cells and is a key longevity-enhancing nutrient, which helps to slow biological aging at the cellular level. So look, I tried all the crap, vitamins, pills, green drinks that taste like lawn clippings, but Fatty 15, it's different. This isn't wellness theater. This is real. And I've been using it and I'm sleeping better. My brain's sharper and my joints, well, they're not screaming at me every morning. So for me, that's a win. Fatty 15 is clinically proven to raise C15 levels, resulting in lower cholesterol levels, healthier liver function, improved gut microbiome health, and improved red blood cell health within 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. It's clean, vegan. It comes in a slick bamboo glass jar. And yeah, the refills come straight to your door like a subscription for your cells. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help you live healthier, longer. I mean, you can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going right now to fatty15.com/beat and using code BEAT at checkout. That's fatty15.com, FATTY, the number 15.com/beat. And again, use code BEAT at checkout. So trust me, you've invested in worse. Look, I know I have. Invest in something that pays you back in energy, in health, and in years. Go check out Fatty 15.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Earlier today, a Trump-appointed federal judge from the Southern District of Texas issued a sharp rebuke of Donald Trump's invocation of the Alien Enemies Act. A judge by the name of Judge Rodriguez ruled that Donald Trump did not have the lawful authority to invoke the Alien Enemies Act. He specifically says, as to that question, the historical record renders clear that Trump's invocation of the AEA through the proclamation exceeds the scope of the statute, and it's contrary to the plain, ordinary meaning of the statute's term. As a result, the court concludes that as a matter of law, the executive branch cannot rely on the Alien Enemies Act, and issued an injunction barring the Trump regime from sending the petitioners there, a group of migrants, to concentration camps in El Salvador. And I'm not sure if you saw this image of the Blue Bonnet facility, the detention center in Texas as well, Cohen. I mean, these are migrants who were set to be sent to El Salvador to basically die in El Salvador. I see some people, by the way, who say, when you use the term concentration camp, it's not the right word, or maybe you should. I mean, I think it is. People go there, they don't leave there, they're forced into labor, and they die there. So I don't know what else to call what CCOT is. I know they call it a terrorism center, but I'm just trying to describe what it is. But this is happening in the United States right now. And again, Cohen, to me, this doesn't get enough attention here. Like, this should be the front page everywhere, that in the United States, you have this detention center that really the public can't access. So Reuters had to put a camera drone above it to even access this facility to show what's happening. And the human beings, let's not forget, these aren't animals. And by the way, we shouldn't treat animals like this either. So let me be clear about that. Human beings are forming SOS with their bodies as a drone is overhead in the United States of America. It's an image that haunts me. Similarly, those images of individuals that we know, it just in general, human treatment, the way CCOT treats human beings at all, but 75 to 80% of those individuals that the United States has disappeared to CCOT have no criminal history at all here or in their home countries, who are now rotting away in a concentration camp. And then remember, you had dog killer Kristi Noem with her $100,000 Rolex posing in front of it, and the MAGA Republican Congress members posing in front of it. So it's interesting that, you have this Trump-appointed judge, Cohen, making that ruling today.
But you know what Trump is going to do. You know exactly what Trump is going to do. He's going to turn around and say that this specific judge, who I believe is a federal court judge, has absolutely no jurisdiction. And Pam Bondi's been out there saying it. Marco Rubio this morning turned around and said it. He said it as well at that at that meeting yesterday, the cabinet meeting, that none of these judges have a legal right whatsoever within which to interfere in the operation of the executive branch, that the executive branch operates at a level substantially higher than what these federal court judges are doing, and that the more that they try to do it, the more that they are going to be held accountable. And you know what accountable to them means.
You know, I did a story about this morning as well, of Trump throwing the DOJ lawyers under the bus as well. Because when Trump was asked in that interview by ABC's Terry Moran if he could get Abrego Garcia returned, if he wants to do it, Trump had to admit that he could do it. Of course he could do it. Yes, I can call the leader of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, and get Abrego Garcia returned. But Trump says, my lawyers told me that I don't have to. My lawyers told me that I won in front of the Supreme Court. My lawyers told me that I'm doing everything right, so I'm following what my lawyers are saying. Those lawyers are in front of federal judges across the country. And there was that interesting thing, Cohen, in the Maryland case involving Abrego Garcia. I'm not sure if you, where it was like stayed or delayed for a week. All of the discussion.
It was delayed.
Yeah, it was delayed for a week. My suspicion was that a lawyer had made the representation that they were working to get Abrego Garcia back, because why else would you delay it for a week, or that they had made some progress? That's what I think was happening.
Well, you would never know. So your supposition is it's nothing more than that. And why? Because here's another thing that Marco Rubio turned around and claimed at that, again, that clown show of a cabinet meeting, when he turned around and he says, I don't have to answer your question. I don't have to answer any questions in regard to Kilmar Abrego Garcia because it deals with national security. Imagine a cabinet member sitting at a cabinet meeting where they call the press and you ask a question, which is a fair question. It's a question that right now is on everyone's mind. It's, what are you intending to do? There is a lawsuit right now, and you are not winning that lawsuit regardless of how you want to try to spin it. You're not winning it when the lower court, the lower federal court, says you must bring him back. You must effectuate his return. And then the Supreme Court, and I'm disappointed that they used the term. They should have just used the same term, facilitate his return. So when they ask Marco Rubio, what are you doing to facilitate Garcia's return? I don't have to answer you that. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of like a 10-year-old, a petulant 10-year-old child that, I don't have to answer that question. I don't want to answer that question. Not the Secretary of State, that's for sure.
We have the Rubio clip. First, let me show you what Trump said, though, in response to Terry Moran asking if you could return Abrego Garcia. Let's play that clip first.
Legally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
See, we have lawyers who don't want to do this.
You think he's throwing them under the bus, Ben?
That will absolutely be an exhibit.
You think he's throwing them under the bus?
I think it's more than throwing them under the bus. What do you think?
Oh, I think I've seen this before. This is not a new movie. This is a remake. We've all seen this many, many times before. It's always somebody else's fault. You see, they know they screwed up. Let's be honest. All right. They screwed up on this one, but Trump will never accept the accountability. It's not me. You remember him standing on Air Force One when they asked him about the Stormy Daniels? I don't know. You need to ask my lawyer. Ask Michael. He'll tell you he's the one who handled it.
Well, it's like what happened with Mike Waltz earlier today, right? Donald Trump fired Mike Waltz, the national security advisor, but he didn't want to be viewed as giving in. That's how Donald Trump sees it, that the media would have won for forcing me to fire Mike Waltz, despite Mike Waltz starting a Signal chat where classified information was sent to a editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. And we know that Waltz set up at least, 20 other Signal chats like this as well on issues of and involving Gaza and Ukraine
Yemen and whatever.
And all of these issues. So Trump's like, I can't hand Jeffrey Goldberg, that scumbag, a win. What the reporter who was likely using Mike Waltz as a source, and that's why Mike Waltz invited this guy accidentally onto the Signal. Who are you handing a win to? So Donald Trump waits for it to be day 101. So he doesn't do the firing in the first 100 days. And then he doesn't call it a firing. He moves Mike Waltz to be the ambassador to the United Nations now and says, oh, that was my plan. It was a reorg. We just did an organization shift. And now he's the ambassador to the United Nations. I mean, Cohen, it's so transparent and utterly ridiculous. But now, by the way, Mike Waltz is going to have to get confirmed in that position. He's going to have to go before the Senate and talk about the Signal chats and all.
I can't wait for that one, I'll tell you. I mean, you can just imagine the Democrats asking questions on that.
And it was because Trump just refused any form of accountability. He still has Pete Hegseth running the Department of Defense, who was like giving real-time updates of the war plan in Yemen. And we know it because we read it was a war plan. We can see this plane goes then, this drone goes then. Here are the times. Here are the locations. And then they go to us. Not war plans. Same thing what we talked about earlier, Cohen. Tourism isn't down. Things are great.
No,
we're winning the trade war. Like a miracle, it's all going to go away. And the thesis, though, is about me talking about how our corporate news is reporting this through this distorted fascist goggles. The rest of the world is seeing it clearly, the way we at the Midas Touch Network see it clearly, because we're bringing the facts, we're bringing the receipts, and we're showing you what they're saying, not what you interpret what they mean to fit a right-wing narrative or try to massage this into something normal. It isn't normal. Take a look at
that's why he's attacking. I mean, it's exactly why he's attacking Midas Touch Network on a daily basis, because we do speak truth to power here, and we will not hold back. And unlike lamestream cable news media, who right now is more concerned about, profit, and they're more concerned about their advertisers and their jobs, they don't want to. They actually go out of their way within which not to ask follow-up questions that would invoke some form of ire from dear old Donald. That's really sad. It's sad when you could consider news sources enemies of the state.
Marco Rubio right here, two clips I want to share with you. The first one, when he was asked, have you been in touch with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia? You referenced this before, but every time we make references here, Cohen, I like to back it up with a video and a receipt. So play this.
Etc.
Yes,
would be fine. Yes.
Secretary Rubio, can I ask you a question? You brought up El Salvador in your remarks. Have you been in touch with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia? Has a formal request from this administration been made?
Well, I would never tell you that. And you know who else I'll never tell? A judge. Because the conduct of our foreign policy belongs to the President of the United States and the executive branch, not some judge. So we will conduct foreign policy appropriately if we need to. But I'll never discuss it. And no one will ever make us discuss it, because that's how foreign policy works.
Mr.
And did you see, you of course heard what he just said. He could have answered the question and just said, no. But he makes the added point that I'm not just going to not tell you. He goes, I will never tell a judge.
Yep.
Because we don't have to tell judges things. And so if you're that federal judge, by the way, in Texas, Judge Fernando Rodriguez, he's basically saying to someone like Marco Rubio, no, you are going to tell me. Judge Zinnes, federal judge in Maryland. There's another Trump federal judge, Judge Innes isn't a Trump judge, but there's another federal judge in Maryland who's a Trump appointed judge. Same thing. You need to facilitate the return of another Venezuelan who you sent to the concentration camp in El Salvador. And we're seeing this pop up across the country. That's why you have Marco Rubio basically right there in a clip that's not getting a lot of attention, but you called it out, Cohen, rightfully so.
It needs to be called out, and it needs a lot of attention for two different reasons. And I'm sure there's more, but at least two. The first reason that it has to is it is defiant of our tripartite system of government. There's a checks and balances. You do not, as the executive branch, have the right to defy one of your co-equal branches. Okay? You just don't. And second of all, the reason why he's doing it, notice, of course, where he's sitting. He's sitting directly next to Trump. This is not about legitimate gripes. This is not about national security. This is about playing to one person, and that's the guy who's sitting to his left. He wants to demonstrate, because he's not a tough guy, he wants to demonstrate that he is tough and that he is going to fight for Donald, all right, tooth and nail. So when a reporter asks a question such as this, he is going to be defiant to the nth degree for the sole purpose and the only purpose of having Trump sit there and saying in his head, "That's right, Marco, don't give them shit." All right. Make them, make them ask for more, give them nothing, and keep fighting for me, because that's what we're about.
We're going to take our last quick break of the show. A lot more to discuss when we get back. As a reminder, make sure you subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to his podcast, the Mea Culpa Podcast. And then next Tuesday, we'll be on Patreon, patreon.com/Political Beatdown. This past week, I was doing the governor's town hall. And so there was a lot of preparation that went into that, and thought it went really well. And I would love to continue to bring on more governors here and do the same type of show and show other governors, and it seemed to get a lot of great engagement and a lot of great feedback.
Once again, Ben, you, Midas Network, honestly, it was fantastic. I watched every second of it. It was better produced than what you see on mainstream media. So again, just congrats to you, to the brothers, to Jeremy, to everybody, to me. To me, it's all about me. Right? Yeah, it's all about me. I thought of the whole idea. I called the governors. I actually put the governors in their jobs. They all owe me everything. But really a great job, Ben. I'm so proud of you.
Appreciate it. All right, we'll be right back after our last quick break of the show.
You ever try launching a podcast with zero experience? Well, let me tell you something. It's like being tossed into a cage match with a grizzly bear, blindfolded, wearing clown shoes. Because when I started Political Beatdown with Ben, I thought, come on, man, how hard can this be? Script writing, logos, production schedules, ad deals, and don't even get me started on the tech setup. I mean, I feel like I was decoding a damn matrix. Now, if only I had Shopify when I launched this beast. Shopify is the platform behind millions of businesses across the globe, responsible for a whopping 10%. You hear that? 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. And my friends, that's not hype. That's fact. From big names like Mattel and Gymshark to folks just getting their hustle off the ground, Shopify's got their back. I mean, you want a gorgeous online store? Shopify's got hundreds of sleek, ready-to-go templates that make you look like a design god. AI tools? Yeah, they've got those too. Writing your podcast descriptions, jazzing up your images, maybe even making you sound smarter than you are. I mean, not naming names. And you need a marketing squad? Shopify's built-in tools let you hit email, Instagram, TikTok, wherever your customers are scrolling or doom scrolling. And listen, Shopify handles it all. Inventory, returns, international shipping. I mean, they are the ride or die business partner that you never knew you needed. So if you got a big idea or even a little one and you're ready to turn that dream into a reality, head over to shopify.com/beat. That's shopify.com/beat to start your $1 per month trial today. That's Shopify, SHOPIFY.com/beat.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Cohen, I want to talk about 3 separate deals that the Trump family has done that's not getting enough attention. And those deals have nothing to do with actually helping America, because 90 deals in 90 days is just another Trump catchphrase that appears to be yet another fraud, as there are so far no deals in 20 days. But the deals that Trump and his family are focused on, Don Jr. launching something called the executive branch with David Sachs, the crypto czar, and they're launching it in Washington, D.C., $500,000 to join the executive branch. They launched this at the Ritzy Willard Hotel, which was also used back in 2021 on January 6th by Trump and MAGA people as a staging ground for the insurrection as well, kind of full circle, if you will. And it's $500,000 for that access. That was one of the deals. A deal with Qatar announced a Trump resort there, and an Abu Dhabi-backed fund is going to be using the Trump crypto in their transactions, and that was announced as well. And during the first Trump administration, any one of these things would have been a massive scandal, would have been talked about as front page news, would have been dealt with, and not just some throwaway line. But this is what's happened. Yeah. Those 3 stories are the past 3 days. I could go back 3 days, 3 stories.
But they did do it during the first administration. And yes, it was talked about, but yet he got away with it. When we saw, for example, that the Trump hotel in D.C., Saudi Arabia took they bought out the whole hotel on a couple of different occasions, literally to the tune of like $10 million, as just one example. There were so many violations of the emoluments clause. There were so many violations. Did it stop him from doing it? No. In fact, let me tell you what it did. It empowered him in round 2 to take it to the extreme. It was a litmus test. He realized that, you know what? I'm the president of the United States. I'm going to monetize this position, because nothing says I care about America like monetizing it for yourself. These meme coins, this Don Jr., I mean, think about it. If you had $500,000 to invest, I want our brigaders to think about this. If you had $500,000 and this was your world in terms of crypto, would you not invest $500,000 to have access to what is going to happen with crypto in terms of the U.S. government tomorrow? You know how much money has been made off of Trump's crypto coin, literally, since it started? It is obscene. I mean, he's made billions and billions of dollars. I think he's made something like almost $4 billion off of that crypto. Why in the world would you not invest $500,000 to have the inside track on what's going on? Think about it this way. Elon Musk invested $250 million into Trump's campaign to get him elected. Elon Musk made, literally, from the time, and I can't tell you right now because of the downfall of Tesla and so on, but at one point in time, he made something like $200 billion. So he took $250 million and turned it into $200 billion as a return. That's a hell of a return on investment for anyone.
That's the paper valuation right there, right? I mean, based on the stock price. But if you want to even talk about like hard cash, right? Like NASA has awarded SpaceX billions and billions of dollars in actual, cash money.
It's $9 million a day.
There's this golden dome thing that the Department of Defense wants to, launch, because they're going to increase their defense budget from like 800 billion to a trillion because they like the name trillion. And this golden dome thing that Donald Trump talks about, that I'm not even really clear what he, if even Trump knows what he means. The number one bidder on it, and we'll see what happens, is Elon Musk. And the next one is Palantir, to try to bid for it. That's why if you look at some of these AI stocks, and it's why Elon turned X into basically an AI company as well, and then used Grok across a lot of government entities as well to also increase the value of his own properties. There's a cash money component of this, of the government contracts that are being bid on. Look, we talked earlier about last episode, how Donald Trump called Jeff Bezos and said, take down any indication of the cost additions on products on Amazon caused by tariffs. Well, Bezos's companies also have gotten big government contracts by Donald Trump. Bezos's space company, Blue, whatever it's called,
Blue Origin
got billions of dollars as well from NASA. So this is, it's exactly the way Soviet Russia would work, right? They would have their central planning, and then they would give their exemptions. So you would show up there as this company or this oligarch, and you would get rewarded based on your loyalty to the party, and they would pick which people get the exemptions, and those people would do well, while all the other people would suffer. And I think it was, and I'm trying to remember who talked about it. It was Kamala Harris at her speech. She made a good point. Last night she spoke in San Francisco. She said, yes, there's all of this chaos taking place, but she said within that chaos, there's a plan, and the plan is use the chaos to destroy everything. And when the people are suffering, in that suffering and misery, then you, the regime, picks the winners who do good based on proximity to the regime. And that's what we're seeing. And proximity to the regime means people like Elon Musk. So let me share this with you, Cohen.
Yeah.
This Elon, and I'll leave you with this one to see, maybe give you a layup for your 2-finger salute, but you may not give it to him. You may give it to other people. Elon Musk at the cabinet meeting, like why is Elon at a cabinet meeting, wearing 2 hats, a hat that says Gulf of America on it, wearing 2 hats. And it's just the strangest thing to even observe how unserious this all is. And again, the imagery I give is the worst season of The Apprentice that was never even released because it was so bad, meets Kim Jong-un, North Korea. Let me show you the trailer for that season right now.
Sure.
Great job, Kelly. Thank you very much. Elon, I love the double hat, by the way. He's the only one that can do that. Get away with it.
Well, Mr. President, they say I wear a lot of hats. It's true. Even my hat has a hat.
Yeah,
Cohen.
and they sit there and they laugh about it. It's funny because he's rich, he's eccentric. If he was poor and did this, they'd have him in a straitjacket. No matter how you want to slice it, the guy's an asshole. And there's no other way to describe him. And the fact that you have a whole group of cabinet members laughing at this stupidity, first of all, he shouldn't be in that room in the first place. Second of all, he has absolutely destroyed the VA. He's destroyed, I can't tell you the number of government programs that are affecting everyday Americans, the elderly, the disadvantaged. You have children with cancer. This is all because of Elon Musk and this bullshit Doge program, agency, department. I don't even know what to call it because it has never, to this day, been identified. If it's a program, it's different parameters than if it's an agency, or different parameters if it's a department. I mean, there's so many things, but they don't know what they're doing. This is like a gigantic Elon Musk, to me, sitting at that table, reminds me of like the smartass, the class clown who comes in, right, and some people want to be serious. Most people in this specific table are not serious people. But then you have the class clown comes in. How long do you think it took him, Ben, to come up with this concept? I'm going to come in with 2 hats on, and I'm going to make the comment, I wear multiple hats. Elon, I know you watch Midas Touch Network. I know that you watch Political Beatdown. On behalf of all of America, minus the 0.1% that are your buddies, but on behalf of all America and everyone who you have hurt day in and day out since you decided to take on this project of Doge, there's no other way to describe how we all feel other than to say, fuck you.
Michael Cohen at Yale. Michael Cohen at Yale. A 3-day
Given the 2-finger salute. By the way, before we split, I know because I sent it to Jeremy. Can we show Donald with his MS13 tattoo and see whether or not he too is going to get deported, Ben?
If we have it on it, well, I know the photo you talked about. It's on the Midas Touch,
and I want to be very, very clear that it is photoshopped.
It is Photoshop. Well, we'll see if Jeremy can find it while I wrap up and stall for the next 30 seconds. But while Jeremy finds that MS13 thing on Midas, let me say this, Cohen. Everybody should make sure that they subscribe to Cohen's YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. Let's get that YouTube channel 1 million subscribers. Subscribe to the Mea Culpa podcast, wherever podcasts are available. And on Tuesday, we'll be on patreon.com/political beatdown as soon as the show ends. And just like that, Cohen, I got the photo right here. Seems pretty credible to me as I look at this MS13. This is stupid. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
There's the old MS13 tramp stamp for you.
There you go. Shout out Political Beatdown Brigaders. Shout out Midas Mighty.
Boom.